Tonight, the Consulting Engineers of Alberta is pleased to honor Roman Wozniak and Gary Mack as the recipients of the 2015 Lieutenant Governor's Award for Distinguished Achievement.
When I was 16 or 17, I had a job with the town of Rycroft. These boulders had to be hauled down to the dam on a wheelbarrow. So every week there would be a highways engineer that would have a look at what we were doing. He would drive up in a nice shiny yellow truck wearing short sleeve shirt and sunglasses, and so I thought that's the kind of a job I'd like to have. I worked for Delcan for a lot of years. I found that there was fairly strong negative feeling in the West towards firms from the East. And so that was one of the main reasons that I decided that we'd have to part company at some point in time.
He basically carried it by the bootstraps right from day one. He took ISL from a fledgling company back over 25 years ago and helped to build it into the company that it is today.
He laid the foundation for a very strong family culture within ISL. Roman was and still is a fierce competitor, and he taught me how to harness competitive energy and focus the right efforts towards winning major projects or politically important projects.
I learned fairly quickly that in the cities, the politicians, particularly the mayor, wants to know firsthand what's going on.
Most engineers are afraid of the political side of things and would rather work from the technical people and work up. He would meet with the mayor of these communities we worked in, and he would get to know them, get to know what the objectives of the community were, what their challenges were, and to try to mold ourselves into a position where we could be of assistance to them. In the late 80s, when ISL was first formed, we had a handful of clients. They knew we were starting out a new venture. They knew we were personally taking financial risks to be able to achieve that. It's because Roman had those trusted relationships with the key individuals within each of those communities. That was what really translated into our success and our longevity.
Sometimes I'd use him as a advisor when I was making proposals to a town, or to try and get a reading of some of the people. Hey, John, you ask or direct your comment to this guy because he'll be more interested in that fellow.
Roman and ISL were part of the growth in Grande Prairie that occurred certainly from through the 80s and 90s. The bypass through Grande Prairie that occurred in a whole series of stages over that 10-year period, and he persevered through all of that. Working in public consultation processes, especially around controversial issues, being trusted and having integrity is really critical, and Roman certainly exhibited that.
The most satisfying and significant project that I was involved in is the transportation and utility corridors around Edmonton and Calgary that paved the way for the province to purchase land around the two cities.
You depend upon volunteers to be able to do policy work and to be able to really represent the business community well, and Roman did that in spades. He served on the chamber for over 20 years. He was a volunteer on one of our transportation committee, and then that evolved to a seat on the board, and then he served the board and also served on this task force, which traveled into throughout Canada and into the US, looking at light rail transit, and made recommendations for the future of Edmonton.
Service above self is the prevailing motto, and clearly Roman demonstrated that through his volunteerism. Really the ideal Rotarian.
You know, Edmonton works because we have people like Roman that give their time so freely. I started out my career as a municipal government employee with the City of Edmonton, and that was a very large organization, very focused in terms of a specific job requirement.
Gary was highly energetic in everything he did. Gary had a great desire to learn. He would sponge up every piece of information that came his way, whether it be from a senior engineer, a draftsman, a surveyor, a construction engineer. Gary wanted to learn it all, and he did.
I moved on from that to become the town engineer in St. Paul, and so that went from going from a very focused position to a job that where people thought you could do just about everything from soup to nuts, and had very little mentorship. I realized that I needed to come back to Edmonton, and I hunted up Roman as a potential employer, and Roman, being the guy that he was, invited me out to an interview on the golf course. He decided he could beat me fairly easily, but thought I had some prospect as a potential employee. So he did offer me a roadway design job. So getting into the consulting engineering business was exactly what I needed.
He's a very competent and thorough engineer. He's very good with staff and also very good with clients. I could easily leave the office and knowing that things were always under control when Gary was there.
ISL Engineering provides consulting engineering services to a variety of clients. Probably 75 or 80% of the work is done for either provincial or municipal governments in Western Canada. ISL is somewhat in a unique position in that it's not a small firm. It's seen as a medium-sized firm. The advantage we see is that it's large enough to provide breadth and depth for our clients. So we do have some bench strength of our own. When you have the very large projects, you really don't have the horsepower to compete directly against the internationals or the large national firms. So we've always been very effective in rounding up partnerships with others to be able to compete on those types of jobs.
And with Gary at the helm, leading those project meetings, you knew that he kind of knew everything that was going on.
3 major projects that I truly enjoyed. One being the 23rd Avenue interchange at Calgary Trail, which is a very complex project with several bridges, lots of retaining walls, and railways and pipelines, and challenging situations. The second City of Edmonton project is the Walterdale Bridge replacement, so that is in the construction stage now. But I managed that project through to the end of detailed design.
It's one of the things that we did with Walterdale. We looked at 23rd Avenue, and Gary had a lot of things that he could share with the team to get us pointed in the right direction.
And the last project is the interchange in Fort McMurray between Highway 63 and the Parsons Access Road. And a very complex project in very challenging geotechnical conditions, budget conditions, and political situations.
So when you hear that, a guy like Gary Mack, it's kind of like Gandalf, right? He's the wise wizard, and if you get him leading your project as an owner, you know a lot of those problems are going to go away.
Gary, to me, I jokingly call him the old man on the mountain. He's often sought out for advice.
What is unique about Gary is watching him walk down the hallway in a hurry from one office to another with a specific agenda in mind. He looks like a CFL running back about to hit the defensive line.
His project management style is a no-nonsense style. It's a style that is a little bit science and a little bit mud and guts, and he's certainly transferred that style onto many of us here at ISL, and that's something we take a great deal of pride in, is that we can manage these fantastic complex projects for our clients, have fun while doing it, and you could say we've all had a bit of the Gary Mack Kool-Aid.
Gary made a number of important contributions to the engineering profession in general. That he was very active for very many years with the Transportation Association of Canada. and did some quite phenomenal work there.
I co-authored a brand new national manual or set of guidelines for urban street design.
He's a founding member of their scholarship foundation, generating funds to provide financial assistance to young students to advance their transportation engineering careers.
And Gary was also involved with the CEA.
Gary and other colleagues worked side by side with Alberta Transportation to develop new processes where they would do more and more work with external resources. So Gary was right at the forefront of that major shift.
Roman was more of a visionary. Gary was more of the determined type. If Roman would dream it up, Gary would make sure that it got done.
Well, ISL has actually been recognized by Queen's University as one of the top 50 best small and medium-sized employers in Canada. That really is a testament to the organization that ISL is.
It was great. It was great. I just look forward to coming to work every day, and I could hardly tear myself away at night.
We are so glad you had that dedication. Roman and Gary, congratulations on this well-deserved award.